we need to make artistic work and movies that speak to that longing and that speak to how we have to work towards that and support that in one another. And that's what the experience of making this movie was like. And like Laszlo, creating this monument to the past and suffering and all that is lost at that time in history. This movie is a monument to all of those things and a monument to the struggles that we all face as artists.
Adrien, at the point that Brady and Mona's script came to you, what were you looking for? What were you feeling like you wanted to do? What were you hoping was going to come your way?
Anything.
Okay.
I mean, I read this script about 5 years ago. And of course, I had been yearning to find something as meaningful as this, to find a role as complex and as human and flawed. You see plenty of movies and been in movies and strive to be in movies, and you've read a lot of scripts, and as you know, oftentimes characters are quite simplified, or the circumstances, there frankly isn't even an amount of time to spend alone with a character quite like this, where you're spanning decades, and there's just so much that he's living through and coming to terms with, and love and creation and the human condition. And I can't tell you the last time I've encountered a script with that level of meaning, unfortunately. And it's been many years that I found something. So when I read it, I was so profoundly moved by it. And I'm sure you'll probably, I'll just jump your question ahead, but many of you must know that my mother is Sylvia Plahy, especially New Yorkers who like photography. She's an amazing photographer. She's very, very well respected in the photographic community. And she and my grandparents fled Hungary in 1956 during the Hungarian Revolution. So fled Budapest at war and were refugees through Vienna and immigrated to New York and toiled in poverty. And her aspirations and evolution as an artist has been so integral to my own journey and my own understanding of acting, even encountering drama school and discovering acting as a vocation and a possibility in life came from her having an assignment when she worked for the Village Voice and saw that there was a youth program at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and saw that and had the intuition that I was an actor and that I would be well suited to do this. And so to read a script that also honors my own ancestral struggles and their own resilience has been really amazing. Now, 5 years ago, this movie wasn't offered to me. It was a meeting. I had a meeting with Brady. Of course, expressed why I'm the right man for the job as best as I could. And they cast someone else. And this movie went away. And they cast an entire different group of the main characters. And then we all lived through COVID, which was terrible for all of us and the industry. And they lost their funding. And then they tried to pull it back together 2 or 2.5 years ago, and came. Then I heard from my representatives that the script is out there again. It wasn't an offer, and they made it happen. And eventually, they came back to me and offered me this role, and I'm very grateful for that. So, it's been a long road.
I may jump to another question to spin off your family's relationship and roots in Hungary. Most of the film was shot in Hungary. What's it like when you've gotten the role? Brady tells you, "Well, we're going to Hungary to do this." You already have this intense personal connection, and to go back there, it's staggering.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It's actually so helpful for me also in, obviously this could have shot in numerous places. It was potentially going to be shot in Poland. As you know, Europe provides opportunities for locations that feel of another time, and there are tax incentives, and so fortunately Hungary is also quite film friendly. We shot this on celluloid. I know you've probably been informed that they shot it on VistaVision, which is this antiquated equipment that's no one's made an American film since 1961 on VistaVision, and it looks so beautiful, but being there, first of all, it was so helpful for the dialect work that I was doing, which was very important to me. I really wanted to honor my grandfather's specificity and a formality of speech that existed in the 50s. And I grew up with Hungarian spoken in my grandparents' home, and when my mother would be with them, they were always speaking Hungarian. So the accent and certain words, especially the curse words that weren't in the script, all that cursing I've embellished, because I've retained all of that since I was a boy. But being there was great. I mean, it was important to, first of all, I could pick up on so much with my crew. The crew was fantastic and very supportive of our work, but I felt a responsibility to be very prepared, because in a way that I think would have been different if we shot in Pennsylvania, for instance, or in Poland, which is a different dialect and a different accent and language, and so I wouldn't have been under, the same level of scrutiny.
Well, you mentioned the VistaVision, and I know the actual camera, it's huge, and it's on its side.
It's a side-mounted, yeah, I can explain a little bit about it.
And I'd love to know how that impacts how you're acting to, it's a camera you've never acted to before.
Yeah, it was a little imposing initially, and I was hoping we wouldn't have to be faced with doing a lot of ADR, because there's potential to improve upon things, but it also is such a sterile environment. You're there trying to reenact something. You're watching things. You're in a room with several sound editors, and it's very meticulous. So I always, even if there's something off with the sound, if it's audible, I'll always push back and say use the original sync, because I don't think it's better to loop. And the reason I bring this up is that VistaVision is very noisy. It sounds like a sewing machine whirring along. It's literally like, and in a film that has resources that would dare to use something like this, they would have certain apparatus that help mask those sounds. They have these balloons that go over the magazines, and we couldn't afford any of that. So, but essentially, it's a side-mounted magazine. So the film is shot horizontally. So you have more negative space, and it picks up obviously more image, and so you have a wonderful depth of field and scale of it. And then when you see it blown up on 70 millimeter, it really does justice to that image quality. And it really, I love what Brady's choice of using this was. Primarily, first, it's wonderful to shoot architectural work plus intimate close-ups, and he shot it in a very innovative way, because most times it's used for landscapes and big epic sweeping things, but like the scenes where I meet my cousin, played beautifully by Alessandro Nivola, at the bus, that's handheld VistaVision or on sticks, but pretty much right there with us, behind a bus that's this close. So, and it gives such a dynamic feeling. But it's very present, and but it was wonderful, and I think it created such a feeling of another era, and it was a technology that was developed from this era. So I think that's what drew Brady to it, and I'm so impressed by him. I mean, I would think you all must feel pretty impressed. Do you know how little this movie cost? Have they told you this? Do you know?
Yep.
Under $10 million, and we shot it on 33 days. To give you perspective of the challenge of making this, there are people make wonderful parallels to my journey as Spielman in The Pianist, and definitely the work that I had done in order to connect to the terrible time in history and what that film represented and what that individual person's journey throughout that tremendous loss, and all that work that I did kind of paved a way of understanding for the backstory for Laszlo, which I think is beautiful. But that movie we had 6 months to make, and 6 weeks, 6 days a week. There was no other actor on the boards. We shot this whole sequence silently of Spielman as he kind of devolved and witnessed his city erode and the war progress. And it was 6 weeks of silent work. We made this movie in less time, in its entirety, with all of the work and all of the enormity of this. It's just a real, it's a triumph, and I really am so grateful, because it shows what's possible in the independent space, and what people are told is not possible, and what filmmakers are told they shouldn't do, and it was a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation, but you can do it, and you can make something like this.
Not just what's possible, but what people want to see.
And I agree with that as well. And we're kind of told that there isn't an audience for this kind of work, but I think people want to be. Did this feel very long, right? And so many people have said to me, "Oh, the time, it's such an arbitrary thing," and I understand it. There's a lot of time, and you look at it and you say, "Oh, geez, I don't want to watch Adrien Brody for 3 hours," but he might turn out you like it. I mean, but it's amazing, because he kind of broke all the rules of what you should be doing, or what's distributable, and what has value in the marketplace, and make a movie about an architect, and it's just amazing.
Yeah,
and,
we have a
and
baked-in intermission,
with an intermission, and so very proud of him.
I don't know who knows that Brady came from an acting background. Brady was a child actor. He acted up into his teens and his 20s, and I'm curious about when you're working with a filmmaker who comes from that same background, what's different about that relationship versus other directors who perhaps have never acted?
I would say, once you've understood what's required to be an actor, you have a sense of understanding, of empathy, of the challenges that we face. And I think there are, and I've worked with many extremely talented visual filmmakers, very gifted, but who don't have enough sensitivity to really allow you to discover things. And it's not a matter of time, it's just a feeling of communication and trust that ought to be reciprocated from an individual who's entrusting you to have the final form of expression and edit a performance, and you should be able to communicate about things without, it being their way or the highway. And unfortunately, it's not always like that. And I think it comes from, I think Brady is a very sensitive, empathetic person, caring person anyway. But I think all of his years of working as an actor, he's also worked with wonderful filmmakers. He understood what this is asking of us, and he always made everyone feel very included. It was a very inclusive. The crew was in on everything. It was really quite wonderful, and even the actors who came in for a day and local hires there were so good, and there was never a moment where he was just good with people, and there was never a moment where people felt. I've seen on many other occasions where there isn't the space given to make people who come in just feel comfortable and able to thrive and do their work. And sometimes it takes just a little bit of space and encouragement, and then it goes. But if you don't give it, you can't receive it. And I don't think certain filmmakers understand that. Sorry, it took so long for me to say that.
The work that you do with Felicity, I find very moving, because I love the way the film is structured. We're waiting for her, we hear her, you're longing for her, we're longing to see her, and then we see her, and it's just this gut punch. I'd love to hear about the way that you worked with Felicity. I know you initially met just over a Zoom, and then you didn't really speak until you saw each other in Hungary, and you sort of had your own reunion before making the film. And so I want to know about how you laid that emotional groundwork to give us this really beautiful, very complex love story.
I mean, I think it's really a testament to the complexity of her work and what she brought to the character when she appears in the second act of this film, second half of the movie. And I understand longing, I understand love, I understand loss, I understand all these things. There's plenty to draw from in life. We all understand that. If you've lived, you've learned. And so I have that to draw from. And then when she arrives, she gives that value and gives that the complexity to answer to that. And no matter what I gave in the first half, if it wasn't met with her own profound strength and sensitivity and intellect and understanding that she brought to the relationship and the complexities of that relationship, the fact that she's physically debilitated, yet she's the pillar of strength that holds up this man and the family. And that is also great writing about for a woman to have this character of really so much depth and really is the strong one, really is the one that holds the family together, which many women have to do and aren't depicted enough on screen. So there's that, and that's a testament to Brady and Mona Fastfold, his wife and writing partner, and their understanding of what needs to be expressed artistically, and also Felicity meeting the challenge.
I think that's all we have time for.
Is it
so
really?
Sorry. I know. I'm told.
For such a long movie, you got like
to schedule
5-minute sit down. What is that? You're getting ripped
Adrien
off here.
Has many things.
Give me one more. I'm not in that. Am I in a hurry? I'll give you one more if you like.
Okay. So Heather's giving me the nod. So then we'll do
an encore, if you may.
Another one, which I think,
if you will.
In sort of the same vein, I want to hear more about working with Guy, because Guy is staggering in this film. I've said staggering twice, but both times I've really meant it. You know when you meet him, he's not all that he seems. And over the course of the film, he reveals so much, and you are doing such beautiful work with him. How did you lay the groundwork? What surprised you about his performance and about Van Buren, what we learn?
Well, Van Buren's such a mercurial character. It's very hard to figure out what's going on there. But Guy, I've always loved Guy's work, and ever since I saw Memento in cinemas, and I think he's such a great actor, and he's a lovely human being, and he was a pleasure to work with every day, and he worked very hard and listened. He listened. And we all know how important that is. And the other thing is it was never ever an edge of competitiveness, or everybody really just held each other up. And even he's playing this antagonistic person, and it's so challenging to deal with, but there was nothing antagonistic ever for us to contend with, ever. And, I didn't have a disagreement with anybody there. I didn't, even with Brady, I said to Brady, we made it through this very challenging. We're both pretty particular people, and, we conversed about anything that we had to resolve, and that's just so remarkable to be here with something. It made me realize that, you can allocate the suffering to the work, but not need to suffer and endure a degree of suffering beyond that in order to produce great work. And I always attributed, boy, it's hell, and we're going to just have to get through this because this is what it takes. And it didn't take that. It was very hard, and it was a ton of pressure and challenging for everybody. And we were exhausted, and we were sick at times, and we just did it. But nobody made each other suffer, and that I just am so grateful for. And it's what the film speaks to, if I may, just that it's a reminder of the human condition, not only just the struggles that immigrants feel, or people. We all want to feel a sense of home. We all want to belong. And we need to make artistic work and movies that speak to that longing, and that speak to how we have to work towards that and support that in one another. And that's what the experience of making this movie was like. And like Laszlo, creating this monument to the past and suffering and all that is lost at that time in history. This movie is a monument to all of those things, and a monument to the struggles that we all face as artists. That's real, and that isn't discussed, and really can't really be discussed so much. But it is a real thing for each and every one of our hearts, and in our own ways, in our own path. And I'm so grateful it's out there in the universe. So I appreciate all the recognition the film is getting. I'm really grateful for that. But that the work speaks to all this and exists is what I strive to leave on this earth, and that's what I think we deserve to experience. And I'm really anyway, I'm grateful for that, and thank you for your time. And
pretty good encore. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Adrien.